this is Dr. James Camp at Lee College in Baytown, Texas, and I want to welcome you to my channel, Camp Insights, where we're going to start doing a weekly series called Program of the Week for people who are into programming or who are trying to learn programming to see some new techniques. Okay. This week, my son has come home with a new assignment from his school to keep track of his reading for the month. And so he's been keeping track of hours and minutes each day that he spends reading. The problem is when you come get to add those up at the end of the week or the end of the month, you're adding hours and you're adding minutes, and they don't, you have to divide minutes by 60 or multiply hours by 60. And it's just a pain. So we're going to write a program to help him. Okay. I've gone ahead and set this up in Visual Studio this time. I'll be doing some of my programming examples on a Mac and some of my programming examples on Windows. Today I'm using Visual Studio in Windows 11. And when I set up a new console project, it pre-populates this with a pound include IO stream for me and a main function that says hello world. Okay, I want to get rid of hello world. We're not going to be using that. Now, the first thing I do with most of my C++ programs is I tell it that I want to use namespace standard. Okay, that makes it so I don't have to add that std : in front of all the CNs and couts and other parts of the standard library. All right, so what do we need to make this program work? First, I want to note that I have actually planned this program out ahead of time. I've sat down and thought through all the steps that need to happen for this program to work. I'm not just sitting down at the keyboard and making stuff up. And that's an important thing that I try to teach my programming students, is to always sit down and reason out your program. When you're really good at it and you've done this for a long time, you can do the planning steps in your head, but it's a good idea to start by sitting down and planning out on a piece of paper, maybe writing in pseudocode or using a flowchart or whatever system works for your brain to figure out what the necessary steps are in this program. Now that I've done that, I can now sit down and code this out kind of linearly, though that's not how I planned it. I kind of planned it from the middle out or from the end backwards or whatever. So what do I have to do here? The first major step I need to take is that I need an accumulator variable. If we're going to add up all of these minutes, I need a variable to hold all those minutes. We're not dealing with fractions of a minute here. All of these minutes are going to be whole numbers. So I'm going to use an int type variable. I'm going to call it total minutes. And very, very important here, I'm going to initialize that variable to 0. If I didn't initialize it to 0, it would take on whatever starting value was in the memory location that C++ assigns this variable to, which would be some random and usually very large number that doesn't help us at all. So we want to make sure that total minutes starts at 0, and then we can add to that every time through our input loop. We also need a variable called current minutes, okay, to keep track of how many minutes the user has just typed into us each time through the input loop. Okay, I keep mentioning an input loop. One of the things you need to think about when you're planning a program is this the sort of thing that you do once, or is this the sort of thing that you're going to do many, many times? Now, we don't know how many minutes the user has, but assuming that this is my kid who's been keeping track of his reading for, say, a whole week, we need to do it 7 times, right? So I could set this up to just go exactly 7 times, but that doesn't make sense. It's much better to use a C++ loop system to do this. Because we're going to read input at least once and then check whether the input was contains the quit the program signal, we're going to use a do while loop. Okay. And the while condition is going to be, we're going to say while current minutes does not equal 0. Okay. And so that means I'm going to have to tell my user that in order to end the input loop, they need to enter 0 minutes, 0 hours and 0 minutes. Okay. Now inside this loop, we're going to take input. What inputs do we need to read? We need to read in hours and minutes. Okay. And we need to prompt the user to enter those hours and minutes. So we'll see out enter time as HH:MM 0:00 to end. And we leave a little space there to make it look nice. And then we're going to see in hours. Then we have to read the colon in between the hours and the minutes. And then we're going to read in minutes. Now, what do we do with the colon? Well, the colon is going to be exactly one character in there between the number of hours and the number of minutes. So all we have to do is drop in a character type variable. And I'm just going to call it colon. Okay? Because that's always what it's going to be. All right. Now, this would be a good time to, if you want to stop and run your program and check that your input works as expected, you could insert a little cout statement that just outputted your hours and minutes and made sure that you were reading these correctly. So I can cout hours, and minutes, and put an end line there. Okay. So this is not the full program. This is just to take a stop and, there was a build error. Oh, we never calculated current minutes. It's going to yell at me about that. So a better thing to do here, okay, is to actually go ahead and do my calculation. So how do I calculate current minutes? It's going to be hours times, what, 60? Plus minutes. Now I can cout current minutes, inline. Oh, I made a common C++ mistake, having my operators face the wrong direction. Okay. So current minutes equals hours times 60 plus minutes. Cout current minutes. I'm actually going to make this look a little cuter. I'm going to stick a little arrow there to make this look separate from the input lines. Okay. So now we can check our input. I know that 1 hour and 30 minutes should be 90 minutes. There we go. 1 hour 15 minutes should be 75 minutes. 0:45 minutes should be 45 minutes. And let's see if 00 will actually end the program. Yes, it will. Okay. So we stopped and checked that our input system works, and we've checked that our calculation works as well, the hours times 60 plus minutes. Now all I have left to do then is add current minutes to my accumulator variable, total minutes. So I do total minutes plus equals current minutes, and that will add current minutes to the total. Now at the end of the program, I want to see out total time equals total minutes, and an inline. Now I want this to be separate from my input, output, input, output, input, output loop. So I'm going to put in an extra \n, an extra new line character there to separate that. Now I'm going to run it again. And this time, okay, well, we use the same inputs, okay? Let's say my son read for 1 hour and 30 minutes one day. Go him, right? And then 1 hour and 15 minutes another day, and then just 45 minutes on a third day, and that was it. Total time is 210 minutes. Is that reasonable? Yes, it is. Doing a quick check of the math here, 75 plus 45 is 120, plus 90 is 210. Okay, so it looks nice. More importantly, it gets the correct answer. So we've done a nice job of programming here. Okay, so that's this week's program of the week. Nothing really super fancy, not a very long program as C++ programs go, but it does show a couple of really interesting and important features, such as how to set up and use an accumulator variable, how to use a do-while loop to manage an input loop, and I showed you how to stop in the middle of your program and run it to check that your input was going properly and your calculation was going properly before you just write the whole program and have to debug it. Okay. And of course we have some interesting input and output things going on here for you all to look at as well. Okay. Thank you for watching this week's program of the week. I hope it helps you learn a little bit more C++ and a little more programming in general. And until next time, good luck and happy programming.